guys, welcome back to my kitchen. Tonight we're going to be making fermented garlic, okay? So I do fermented garlic once every 3 or 4 months. I do a nice big jar of it so that we can use it in all of our recipes. Because I found I would go to the store and I'd buy this big bag of garlic and it'd sit in the pantry and they're unpeeled, so I didn't want to pull them out and peel them all the time, so I'd kind of not use it as often as I should or as often as I wanted to. So they'd kind of dry out or they'd start to sprout little green heads. And then eventually I learned that I can peel them and ferment them and make them last a lot longer. And they're already peeled and ready to go whenever I want them. So I'm going to show you how to do that tonight. I'll show you actually. This is my last batch that I just did a couple months ago. And you can see I'm getting kind of low there. So I'm doing another batch to refill this. This is just an old repurposed pickle jar. And I like to keep it pretty full because now I find I use my garlic a lot more frequently if I don't have to pull it out and peel it and get it all ready when it's already peeled and ready to go. This also brings out a lot of the garlic flavor. I know, garlic's already strong as it is, but when you ferment it, it's very extra strong. So you'll have to get used to it and find out how much your recipes need when you're cooking with it. I like a lot of garlic. I know. Sorry if you have to smell my breath after I cook, but I like a lot of garlic. So what I have here is 10 whole heads of garlic, okay? And they're all peeled and ready to go. And my cute little girl helped me peel these. She's adorable. She's 5. And she's the sweetest little helper and just always wants to be helpful. And I think that's cute. Anyways, so she helped me peel these tonight. And then I've got 3.5 tablespoons of good salt. Now you're going to want to use either a pink Himalayan salt like this or like a sea salt. I don't think you should use the iodized table salt. Now, maybe someone else will disagree with me on that, but for the most part, a lot of the online community I've talked with says don't use iodized table salt when you're trying to ferment something. Himalayan salt or I think there's like Redmond salt or sea salt. Sea salt will work fine too. Kosher salt. So just something that's doesn't have any added chemicals or anything that are going to mess with the ferment of your garlic. So I've got 3.5 tablespoons here of that. Then right here in the pitcher, I've actually got 5 cups of just room temperature water. Doesn't have to be hot, doesn't have to be cold. Just regular water is fine. And then I've got my neat little setup here. A couple years ago, I was looking for a fermentation crock, but they're kind of a lot of money, and I didn't like that I couldn't see through most of the fermentation crocks. Then I couldn't see what was going on. It was kind of the fun for me, as I love the science of it, and I want to see what's going on with the food, and then it's easier for me to see if it's spoiling as well. So I actually went and bought this big old cookie jar type thing at Walmart. Mine's a little chipped on the edge there because I've used it so many times I think it got dropped. So it comes with a lid, okay? And what I did is I measured the diameter of the bottom of this jar so I could see how far across it was, and I went online and I ordered these. These are fermentation weights, and they are half moon shaped, so they cover the whole top of this crock, and they fit perfectly. Like, there's no room for the food or anything to float out of the seal that these create, except for that hole in the middle, and I've had a problem with that once in a while, but you have to have that there to get it back out. So these are awesome, and I love that it's all glass because they're super easy to clean, and I can see what's going on with all of my ferments. I use these and my little crock here for every ferment I do, other than my wine, obviously. I do sauerkraut, I do corned beef, I do pickled, or I should say fermented beets, all kinds of stuff. You can ferment a lot of really cool stuff. So that's my favorite setup so far, and it was way cheaper than going online and buying an expensive fermentation crock. So that's what I'm going to be using tonight. I am going to move the camera so you can kind of see how I do this. You want to put all the garlic in the bottom of the fermentation crock and pour the water over it after you've mixed all the salt into the water. Sorry, I should say that first. You got to mix the salt into the water first and make sure it's well dissolved. So it's like a brine at that point. Then you're going to pour it over the garlic, and then you're going to put the the fermentation weights on it so that none of it is floating to the top. Now, the process that creates fermentation for the garlic here is anaerobic. It doesn't want oxygen. So you don't want any of the garlic floating to the top because they will rot and they will ruin your ferment. So you want to keep them all under the surface of the fluid, the brine, and it'll get really bubbly for a few days. You'll see a couple of good bubbles off of it. Depending on how warm or cold your house is, that might slow the process down. We keep our house kind of cool and it is winter. So it might be a little longer till my ferment's done. That's okay. I'll just watch it and make sure that it doesn't create any funky smells or any weird mold or anything, and you should be fine. Now, let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to move the camera, and I'll show you how that goes, and we'll go from there. Okay, guys, so we've got our fermentation crock here. It's super simple. I'm going to put all this garlic right in. I'm going to kind of level it out a little bit. Then I'm going to pour the saltwater brine that we just mixed up over the top of all that garlic. Now you want that water to be well over the top of your garlic because you want it submerged really well. So now I'm going to put these crock weights, these glass weights in. Okay. Start with one. And that might not have been the best idea, so I should probably try to put them both in at the same time so that they don't, so the garlic doesn't float above them. Okay, so I'm going to just adjust those in, and you might have to play with it for a minute to get it right where you want it, because the garlic really wants to float, guys. So you got to kind of mess with it. Once you get all that garlic under the rocks, or the glass, sorry, then you're in business at that point. It's just a little harder than it looks because they fit perfectly, but that means that there's not a lot of room for your hands in there when you're moving it around. So, come on. Okay, so now I've got these two. No, I don't. I totally don't got these two. They're just still floating to the top. Normally, this is not so hard. But naturally, since I'm filming it, it's going to be harder because people are watching. All right, let's try this again. Okay, knock on wood, we've just about got those in the right spot. I'm just moving the garlic around a little to even it out. I've got a few floaters in there, and I'll get those under the surface as well. But now these two half-moon shaped glass fermentation weights cover most of the surface of this jar, which is good. That's what you want. They are covering all that garlic except the stuff that's being stubborn and trying to float out. So I am going to shove those in really good and go from there. And if a few of them will not stay under the weights, pull them out. Put them in your fridge, use them for something else. Because you do not want these coming out from under and being in the air. And I have had some float out during a fermentation process, like a couple days in, and I've taken them out and used them for something else. Now, my hands are really clean, so make sure you've washed your hands really, really well when you're doing this. Okay. Right. I am shoving them under and they keep floating up. Now this is the part where you might want to find something to plug up that hole. I don't usually have this problem, but I'm going to find a piece of celery or something to shove in that hole to help keep that barrier closed, because the garlic just keeps wanting to float up through there. And I'm going to pause the camera while I find something to do that, and then I'll show you what I did after. Okay guys, we're back. So I ended up using a little plastic lid that I had, and I put it underneath the glass weights to cover the hole in the middle. Now, this was by far the most stubborn batch of garlic I've ever made, because I don't usually have that problem, and these ones just kept floating up. So we've got that hole all patched up. All the garlic is submerged well. I'm gonna go ahead and move the camera a little bit so you guys can see here what that looks like, okay? You can see the brine itself is kind of murky because of the salt, and those weights are holding the garlic down. That's exactly what you want. Now, your kitchen or wherever you are fermenting this is going to smell very strongly of garlic for as long as you're fermenting this. A couple days, a week, 2 weeks, however long you decide to ferment this. So be prepared for that. It doesn't really bother me too bad, but it might bother you. So you can always put this in another room or a pantry, close the door, whatever. But it will smell really, really garlicky for a few days. So now that's it. You put the lid on, put it in a dark corner. You don't want the temperatures to be too cool. Don't put it in your garage just because it stinks, because this time of year, anyways, it's a little bit cold in my garage. Other times of the year, it might be too hot and it might ferment too fast or spoil. So you want to keep it at a pretty constant temperature. I want to say most ferments do really well between 70 and 75 degrees. So I'm going to pause the camera and just have another word or two about this, and then this video will be done. So give it a try, and like and subscribe, and let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you didn't have as much of a hard time with the garlic floating as I did tonight. But when you're in the kitchen, things don't always go the way you want them to, so you kind of have to improvise. So I'm going to pause the camera and move it. I'm going to explain a few more things to be aware of, and then this video will be done. Okay guys, we're back. So when I first started doing fermented garlic, I didn't know that the garlic itself can turn colors when it's fermenting. Sometimes a little bit of pink, sometimes a little bit of green. That's normal. It's actually not rotting. You can watch for mold and things on the top of the fluid, but the garlic that's submerged will turn weird colors sometimes, and that's actually normal. So here we are. Here's our crock full of garlic and brine, and we've got those glass weights holding it all down, and my little plastic lid that was holding all of it down because it has a hole in the middle. I've never ever had that happen before. Naturally, it's going to happen because I was filming it. So yeah, just improvise. Do what works best for you. When you're working with a ferment, don't ever use aluminum, okay? Now, stainless steel, I've heard some people say stainless steel is okay, and I actually just learned this from a friend, because I thought all metal was a big no-go when you do fermentation, but apparently stainless steel is okay. From what I've heard, I haven't tested it. Stainless steel is supposed to be okay. Don't ever use aluminum anything. Apparently it reacts with the acids or the salt or something like that. So like and subscribe. Give it a try. Let me know what you think. When this is done fermenting, it's going to go right in my fridge, and it stays there for 3 or 4 months until I do another batch because I'm almost out. It will last in your fridge probably for a very long time. Because it is fermented, the salt helps preserve it, and the fermentation preserves it, and then it's in the fridge. So instead of going to the store and buying a jar of garlic, you can do something where it doesn't have any preservatives in it. This is fresh. You made it at home. You know exactly what went into it. Also, I think I did a little digging a couple of years ago, and I found that a lot of the garlic that we buy that's already peeled in the jar or chopped up is not very ethically sourced, I should say. There's a few documentaries out there you could watch, but it'll make you sad, like it made me sad. So I thought, I'm going to maybe make that myself when I can. Now, I kind of also like not having the preservatives in it, but I'm not super strict about preservatives and food colorings in my food. I like to eat healthy when I can. But you'll find on these videos from time to time, I do make junk food. I do enjoy junk food. There's got to be a balance. You can't just not enjoy junk food once in a while. But I think that when you can get something healthy or homemade, that's kind of nice. I enjoy it. My kids enjoy it. And my husband enjoys it too. Well, when it's something he'll eat. Well, like and subscribe. Give it a try. Let me know what you think. And God bless you guys and good night.